And also, everyone is muted, but at any point, if you have a question or something comes up that you want to ask about or want clarification or need me to slow down, just unmute yourself and jump in. Feel free to do that. So again, welcome to Canvas Gradebook. We're going to start out with kind of an introduction just to Gradebook. Many of you have seen Gradebook. You've worked in it, you've done some different things with it. But I thought just to start out, in case someone is new to Gradebook, we'd kind of do just kind of an intro here. Can you guys see my Gradebook screen? Give me a thumbs up or a nod. Okay, awesome. All right, so this is Canvas Gradebook. So all of your courses have a Canvas Gradebook in it. And you'll see students, once students are pushed out into the Canvas courses, you'll see those students listed. And then a couple of things to notice is I'm going to scroll. So excuse my scroll, but we're going to scroll to the right side. And you'll see what we call category columns. So you'll see assignment category columns. They may have different names because we all have different categories in our courses. We may have assignments and quizzes. We may have lab projects. We may have exams. We may call them tests. We're going to talk a little bit more about those categories in a moment, but those are all generated or populated by the assignments page. And again, we're going to talk some more about that. The other thing that you'll notice is that the total column is all the way to the right side. And as you begin to add things, you may notice some of those new columns appear all the way to the right, even outside of that total. I have seen that happen. So if you can't find your column, make sure you scroll all the way to the right. One of the things that you'll notice is this total column doesn't have a letter grade. And we're going to talk about that too, because we want, in order for us to use the Canvas apps that IT has placed in Canvas for us for midterm and final grades, we need that letter grade to show up. And we're going to talk about how we can do that. We'll talk about these crossed out eyeballs. We'll talk about the different things that we see in Canvas Gradebook. So one of the things that I like to do right off the bat with Canvas, and of course, this is totally up to you, but we can move this total column. Right now, if you remember, I had to scroll all the way to the right to see the total. So if I click on this three button or three dot or kebab, as some people will call it, I can click on that move to front, and that will move that total column all the way to the front, to the left side next to my student names. So that makes it easier for me to take a look at a student's their name as well as their total right there. So that's one thing that I like to do. Of course, that's totally up to you on how you organize your gradebook. Another thing I like to do is I'm going to come up here to this view button, and I'm going to click on the drop down, and we're going to talk about these different features, but I'm going to jump down here to the notes column. Now, again, this is up to you, but this is something I like to add to my gradebook. It adds a notes column that you as an instructor can add notes about your students. Maybe you've done a survey or a quick questionnaire at the beginning of your course. A lot of times I like to do that just to learn a little bit about my students, and I ask them to share what they're comfortable with, share some things with me. So sometimes they might, I might ask them if you have a nickname or a preferred name, or tell me a little bit about yourself and what your major is, or things like that. So here's a place that I can put notes about that student. Maybe I can put their nickname. I can put down that Chewbacca has 3 jobs and 4 kids. And so that is kind of a flag to me to know if he's struggling with things. That's a reminder, I should say, that helps me to remember what's going on with that particular student. And this notes column is only visible to you as an instructor. So students aren't going to see those notes that you've made. So that is something that I like to add. And of course, these columns can be resized. So you can decrease the size of that column so it's not taking up so much real estate on your screen. Another thing that I like to do is, and we're going to talk more about adding assignments to your gradebook, but you'll notice that if an assignment is unpublished, it is going to show up as an unpublished column in your gradebook. So again, an assignment that you put into your grade, into your Canvas course, whether it's an assignment, a discussion post, a quiz, any of those activities that you have for students, if you have not published them, students can't access that activity. But those activities may show up in your gradebook, but they show up as unpublished. Again, students don't see that, but you see that column. So for me, those unpublished columns kind of get in my way. They make my gradebook a lot longer than what they are anyway. So I'm going to go back to this view button and I'm going to uncheck unpublished assignments. So when I uncheck that, that will cause those unpublished columns to drop off. I haven't deleted them. I'm just cleaning up my gradebook view a little bit there. So I'm not seeing those columns that I don't really need to see right now. So that's kind of a quick overview to Gradebook. We will definitely come back and take a look at some more features. But one of the things that is very important to understand is that in order to populate these columns in the Gradebook, those things must be added on the assignments page. So everything on the assignments page populates or builds those columns in your Gradebook. So we are going to venture over to the assignment page. I'm going to click on the three-line menu, and I'm going to go down to assignments. I currently have that disabled to students because I like to publish all of my activities on the modules page. I want them to go to modules and find everything that they need to do. So I actually have disabled the assignments page, but it doesn't mean that it's not, that I don't have access to it and I can't work with it. So I'm going to first talk about these categories. Again, we mentioned them in the gradebook, and we talked about how we might have assignment categories. Maybe we call them homework, quizzes, tests, exams, lab projects. Think about your syllabus. So a lot of times we have these categories listed on our syllabus as to how we break things down, particularly if we have weighted grades. So this is where we build those assignment categories. You may or may not need those if you run strictly points by points and you don't weight anything like grades. Your final grade is calculated by quizzes equal 10% of the final grade and lab projects equal 25%. If you're not interested in doing any of that, just having one assignment category, the assignments, is totally fine. But in order to add those other groups, should you be interested in that, you click on this plus sign. And when you click on the plus group, it will add this add assignment group where you can put in your new assignment group. So I'll go ahead and put exams. I'll click save, and that's going to add it. Now, forgive my scrolling. We're going to scroll, but you'll see these different, that's my assignment categories. Here's my lab projects. Here's my quizzes. And then here's that exams group. So I can, when I add these assignment categories, that's going to build those different columns in the gradebook. I'm going to jump to gradebook real quick and we'll take a look at that new assignment category. I'm going to scroll. And over to the right, you'll see that new exams column. Now the category columns are handy if you want to see how a student is doing in a particular category. So for Chewbacca, I can tell he's doing fairly well with the assignments. He scores an average of 90% on those assignments that I put in the class. Quizzes, he scores an average of 100 on the quizzes that I've put in the class. Lab projects has a dash because I haven't added any or haven't graded any for him. And the same with exams. So those are your assignment categories. Again, if you're just trying to organize things, they're handy for that. I'm going to jump back to assignments and show a little bit again about the assignment categories and where you might see that. So we've built the categories here. And when I create on the plus assignment to create a new assignment for my class, you'll see those assignment groups or categories listed there. So we're building, let's say we're building a new column. Week 1, they have I don't know. It seems like I already have week 1 assignment, but we'll do it again. I'll put in trial just to make it different. We can put in the text here, our instructions of what we want the student to do for that week 1 assignment. We can put the number of points, the assignment group. Here are those categories. So here's the categories that are listed on that assignments page. And as we add them there, it populates this drop-down list. So I can indicate that this week 1, let's call this week 1 lab project instead. I'll assign that to a lab project as an assignment group. I can display the grade as points. I'll click on this drop down. I can choose different options as to how I want that assignment to actually appear in the gradebook. Do I want it to show as a percentage? Do I want it to show as points? So let's imagine this is worth 15 points. If I have it displaying as points, it's going to show as 15 points in the gradebook. If I choose percentage, it's going to convert that point to a percentage. I have the option of complete and incomplete. If I choose that, if the student completes that and I grade that, when I issue the points, let's say I give them 14 points or 15 points or 10 points, they have actually completed it. They may not have scored perfectly, but they've completed it. And so if I've marked the display grade as complete, once I grade it, it will put a check mark in their gradebook. If they have not completed it, it puts an X. So that indicates an incomplete. I can have it display the points as a letter grade. So it will convert that percentage, converts from points to percentages, and actually then puts a letter grade. We'll talk some more about that letter grade. And then GPA scale. And then finally, not graded. Not graded is handy if you're wanting to add an assignment column to your gradebook, but you're not really going to add points to it. Okay, let me back up. So I think I said that wrong. If you are adding an assignment and you mark not graded, it's not going to show up in the gradebook, but it allows you to work with the assign to and the different things available. So think about, this is an example. So think about the in-service 1500 that you guys have been in and the group sessions. So you may have looked at your group 1A, 1B, group 2, group 3, group 4, whatever. Those I added as assignments. So, and I marked them as not graded. The reason I added them that way is so that I can control when those were available. Because I thought having too many of those groups throughout the week would be confusing to our viewers, to our users, to all of you. So I made it as an assignment so I can control when that link was available from and when it might disappear. So that is one way to kind of control those links for your students. But that is displaying that grade as not graded, and it does not add it to the gradebook. On the other hand, if I do want it to be in the gradebook, I'll change that to points or one of the other options, and it will drop that column in the gradebook. Now you may see this right here, do not count this assignment towards the final grade. Maybe by chance you're doing a little activity with them, you're going to award them some points, but you don't necessarily want it to count towards the final grade. You can do that. You can check this. It will still show in the gradebook as a column, but it will not count or calculate within that final grade. So that doesn't happen too often to a lot of our faculty, but it is an option that you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just go ahead and just quickly go down through your other options here with the assignment. Again, keep in mind, assignments are what populate the gradebook. So those become very important to us. Now, the submission type by default is online. Canvas is assuming that if you're going to have an assignment for students, you're going to want to have them submit something to you electronically. So online would allow them to either text entry, and you as an instructor can choose how they submit something to you. So it kind of depends on what you're working with. If you check text entry, it will allow students to actually key in, just right in the Canvas screen, they can key in their answer or a list of answers or whatever you need them to do. If you check media recordings, it will allow them to actually turn on the media recorder within Canvas and record a little video or audio. And that's how they would submit their assignment. I skipped over website URL. You may be working with your students to create their own website, or maybe you're having them do something at a website, and so they can submit that as well. And then finally, that file uploads. So if you're having them do a PowerPoint presentation or a Word document or some other type of document that they need to submit to you electronically, you make sure you click the file uploads. So these, you can mark as many, any or all of them, depending on how you want to make it available for students to submit. That is if you're wanting them to submit something electronically. So let's take a look at the other submission types. Another submission type is no submission. So this one is that assignment column that you need to populate in the gradebook. You need to enter scores in there, but you're not interested in having students actually submit anything to you. They're not submitting anything to you online. They're not submitting anything to you in face-to-face. If you have that opportunity to meet with them face-to-face, you just need that column in the gradebook just to capture those grades. So no submission would work well with you. It's going to drop it in the gradebook, and students will be able to see it, but you're not prompting them to submit anything. Other options would be on paper. So if you mark the on paper, it will still drop it in the gradebook. When students look at it, it will indicate to them, they'll see all your instructions that you might have entered up here at the top, but then it will have just a notification there to let them know that they're to submit that on paper. No electronic submission is necessary. And then finally, there's an external tool, and that opens up a whole other realm of things that you could have students submit things with external tools, such as a studio video or some other type file that they're having to do. And that is for another conversation sometime. But again, keep in mind that the assignments are what populates that gradebook. So once you've made all your selections there and created your assignment, down at the bottom, you'll see save and publish or save. Save allows you to keep that draft, if you will, so you can come back in and work with it some more. Students can't see it at that point. Save and publish does allow it to be available to students. Either you have made it published in a module, maybe you have your assignments page available to them and they see it there. But definitely it's going to be in the gradebook as well. So I'm going to go to the grades. I'm going to go back to grades. We've talked about adding those categories and where they show up. We add the categories on assignment. They show up at the end of our gradebook. So those are those assignment categories. We also see those assignment categories listed as we're building assignments so we can categorize things. So one of the things that I want to touch on, for those of you who are doing weighted grades, now not everyone does weighted grades, and that's fine. You may be just doing strictly points. Everything in your class, whether it's an assignment, a quiz, an exam, a lab project, a clinical, anything, whatever you're doing, maybe just be strictly points, and that's fine. On the other hand, you may have weighted grades in your class, and think about your syllabus. Maybe your syllabus indicates that quizzes are worth 10% and exams are worth 45% and homework is worth 25%. And all of those equal 100% to come up with your final grade. Those are weighted grades, and Canvas can help you take care of that. So I'm going to go back to that assignments page, because again, I can't say this enough. You're gonna get tired of hearing me say it, but that assignments page is what controls and directs your gradebook. So I'm going to go back to this 3 menu line, and I'm going to go down to the assignments, and we're going to take a look at those weighted grade opportunities. So over to the right, you'll see the plus group, you'll see the plus assignment, and then you'll see the kebab, the 3 dots. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on assignment groups weight. This will allow me to indicate to Canvas that my course is going to have weighted grades. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to see it populate with all those categories that I've created. So, excuse me. So this automatically populates those categories that I've created, those assignment groups, and then we can indicate how much each of those are going to be worth to calculate towards that final. So I have this random imported assignments category, and it's going to count for 0. I have it as a category for some different reasons, but I don't want it to populate towards the student's grade. So I'm going to keep that as a 0. I have 2 exams here, so I need to clean up my categories and maybe get rid of one of those. But for right now, I'll leave this one at 0 so it doesn't count. And then you might be wondering, how do I clean that up? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I'm going to click on save. And a couple of things I'm going to notice. Now that I've applied that weighted grades, I'm going to see here that assignments is worth 10%. And I'm going to scroll down and take a look at these. In fact, I'm going to collapse this so I'm not scrolling quite as much. So what I did was click on that arrow. It collapses a group, so I'm not scrolling through and seeing all those. So that's a quick way to kind of control your assignment page. Many of your pages will allow you to do that as well. Here's why I have the 2 exam groups. So I have no assignments or exams in either one of them. But this one I do have included in that calculation. So I'm going to come down here to this one, and I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to delete that category, kind of clean house here a little bit. And this imported assignments, this is something, we may see this imported assignments if we have brought in an import. Maybe we brought in an old import course from Blackboard or somewhere. We've imported somewhere that it doesn't know where to put that assignment, so it just throws it in this new category. So we can actually move that out. I've got this checkpoint here. Let's imagine it's a quiz. Right now, the getting started checkpoint quiz is worth 0 because it's in this imported assignments. But let's say that I actually want it to count as quiz and I want it to count as 20% of the total. I just have to click on this and drag it up to quizzes. And if I drop it in the quizzes, sorry, didn't make it to quizzes. Let me try that again. It's being stubborn. Wow. That was collapsed. That may be my problem. I expanded it. Let's try that again. There we go. So note to self, make sure you've expanded those to drop something in. So now my checkpoint 1 getting started is I just dropped it into the different category, and Canvas knows then to change that category for that particular assignment or quiz in this case. And now it's going to be worth 20% of the total. And this imported assignments, I don't have anything there. I can actually get rid of it. So I'll delete that. I don't need it anymore. I'm eventually going to add quiz or exams, so I'll leave that. I'm going to go back to that weighted assignments group weight just to kind of refresh there a little bit. Again, now we see those categories available. I've cleaned house a little bit, so I only see the 1 exams. I got rid of the imported assignments and put those that quiz where it needed to be. And you'll see that my assignments is worth 10%, lab projects 25, quizzes 20, and exams 45, equaling 100%. So I can go ahead and click save, and I'm good to go there as far as my assignments are concerned and my categories. So when I go to grades, again, I'm going to scroll at the end, so bear with me. Those assignment categories now are going to show that weighted grade or that weighted percentage. So I'll be able to see that kind of build again. So again, it's letting me see how students are doing within each category. Any questions so far? I've just kind of been on a roll. Unmute yourself, shout out if you have a question or something you need clarified. All right.
Hey, Sherry.
I have a question, yeah. Sherry.
Sure.
Maybe you can answer at the end of the meeting. My question about how add extra points column.
Okay.
And this trick, because if I add column in weight group, like extra point, it will be affected other students who doesn't want extra points.
Right.
If I just create column with 0% of weight, it's not affected the students who submit extra points for grades.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know how to figure out.
Okay, good question. So Dr. Nina is asking about adding extra points. So sometimes we may have them do an assignment. Let's say this trial external tool assignment. Let's imagine it is something that I'm having them do. It's just a generic thing that I was playing with. That external tool is something that I'm having them submit. It really doesn't mean anything at this point. The point is here is that let's just change it. Let's say this is extra credit. And as long as I leave that points as 0, okay, and let's say that I am having them submit something, maybe entry and a file upload, that way they can submit that. And I can do the same thing in quizzes too. It changes up a little bit. We might have to work with it a little bit, but anyway, we've added it. We can put in the assigned due date. We can do available from and until, and again, the due date is giving them a flag in their calendar and to-do list of when that is due. The available from and until is indicating when Canvas or when you are allowing them to access this assignment. It's available on a certain day until a certain day. Once that until date goes away, then that link goes away for students. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. Remember, I kept the points at 0. So then when I go to grades and I'm going to take a look at extra credit, the point is 0. But if I enter Chewbacca, he does it. And I have indicated to students that if they do this extra credit, they will get 10 points. If I put in 10 points, then Chewbacca is going to be awarded those extra credit points. And you could assign, and I didn't do this, but I can assign actually where those credit points, extra credit points are going to fall. So I could have them fall in effect grades in the assignment category, the lab projects, quizzes, exams. I can determine where those extra credits are going to fall to. Okay. So right now they're just with my assignments. Typically, I don't know about you guys, but for me, extra credit a lot of times is more low stakes. So assignments typically in my classes aren't worth as much as my quizzes or my grades. Sorry, I'm scrolling here looking for my grade book. So again, I just award those points to those students who participate. So Frodo chose not to participate. I can leave it blank, or if I press a 0, it's not going to affect his grade because the original points is worth 0 anyway. So Frodo, it might freak him out that he has a 0 there, but it's not, because the assignment is worth 0. It's not affecting his grade in any way. On the other hand, Chewbacca did participate, so he's getting the extra credit points. Did that answer your question?
Sherry, but I see for 10 points extra, total 103%.
Yeah, it's in Chewbacca's case, Chewbacca was already doing very well. He already had a 96.97, so it popped him over that 100%.
Okay, got it. I got it.
It
Okay.
really brought him up.
You're great. You answer my question.
Okay. Well, good.
I cannot figure out myself. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. Oh, I'm looking at chat now. So Dr. Nina, I see your chat now. So I'm glad you jumped in and unmuted. And Jeff, yes, my clock is still there on daylight savings time, and I cannot figure out how to change it. Okay. It won't let me. I've tried. So I freak out a lot when I look at that and I see, I think I'm late for a meeting. But anyway, so moving on, we're going to take a look at, let's see. Let's go back to, again, this letter grade. So, and again, we're going to come back and take a look at these eyeballs. We're going to take a look at how we can view different things. But one of the things we need to take care of is, in order for us to do the final grade and midterm and those things that we need to do for our institution, we need to have that letter grade activated or available within our grade book. So one of the things, if you're not seeing a letter grade, we need to make sure we turn that on, and that is all under course settings. So I'm going to go back to that menu and I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Settings is always at the bottom. I'm going to go to the course settings and we want to take a look at the grading scheme. So I'm going to scroll down near to the bottom. I'm going to see grading scheme, and I'm going to see right now that I need to check that to enable a course grading scheme. Now, by default, we've attempted to enable these for you as courses are pushed out, and we've tried to set a grading scheme automatically based on the type of course that you have. So if you have a standard course, it's going to have the standard grading scheme. 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, and so on. If you are teaching dual credit, it's going to have the dual credit grading scheme. If you're teaching a credit non-credit, you're going to see a non-credit credit grading scheme. So we've tried to do some of that work for you, but something that we've learned with the imports, if you're importing from a previous semester, it might import the previous grading scheme. So you may have to do some fixing there. But I clicked on view edit grading scheme. I'm going to see here that I have what I'll call the Canvas default grading scheme, where it has the A minus, B plus, B minus, and so on. I need to select a different one because this is not going to work and connect with Power Campus. So you may see that invalid grading scheme pop up, and this could be why. So I'm going to click on select another grading scheme, and it's going to load the grading schemes that we have available as in our institution. And it might even see some grading schemes that I have created specifically for a course that I've done. But I'm going to say, let's say that I want to use the standard grading scheme. I'm going to scroll down, and down at the bottom, I'm going to see standard. I'll click on these, and that will give you a preview of what the scheme will look like, or the standard will look like. So standard, here's that 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is C, and so on. Before I click use this standard, I'll just scroll back here to show, here's that 93 to 100. So if that's the grading scheme that you're using, you can select it there. Of course, there's the dual credit if you need to switch to a dual credit grading scheme. And then nursing has their own that they have done. Pass fails, that credit, non-credit. So you can take a look at some of the different grading schemes that are available to you. I'm going to choose standard for this case. I'm going to click on use this standard. And for some reason, I can't answer this, but my first preview here, it looks a little weird. It says 90 to 94 is an A, and 80 to 9, it looks weird anyway. So I'm going to ignore that first preview. I'm going to go ahead and click done. And so I've set my grading scheme. We want to make sure that we update course details. So I'm saving that new grading scheme for this class. And just to verify, I'm going to go down and view the grading scheme, and I'm going to see that it's correct now. And I can't answer why that first preview is strange, but I've seen that happen over and over and over again. So I've set my new grading scheme. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go back to grades. Again, excuse me for all the scrolling. So here's the grades now. The letter grade actually appears next to my total grade. So I've set that grading scheme, I've enabled it. So now I should be good to go. Now, before I forget, I'm going to jump over to this handling. I created a page in the Serve 1500 course, handling an invalid grading scheme. So you can see what that looks like. So hard to see, I think, but let me see if I can scroll up. Zoom in a little bit. If you go to work with your midterm and final grade submission, and you click on the button for it to for you to work with it. You've chosen your section, you click get grades, and then you get this invalid grading scheme. There's a couple of things that could be causing that. One is that grading scheme that we didn't have in play. Maybe that it was the Canvas applied default, that A minus, B plus, B minus, and so on. That doesn't jive, if you will, with Power Campus. So we're going to get that invalid grading scheme message. So the fix, go in and choose the correct grading scheme for your course, and then run your midterm or final grades again. Another thing that could cause that invalid grading scheme is no activity columns in the gradebook. Keep in mind, again, assignments are what populates that gradebook. And if you have no assignments, no activity column for you to indicate that students are working in your course and putting in points for those students, then you're going to get an invalid grading scheme because it's trying to calculate, it has nothing to calculate. And so we're going to get that message. So you want to make sure that you enter at least one assignment column to capture those student points. And then finally, you may get an invalid grading scheme if your student has a dash in place of an actual grade. For instance, I had a faculty member contact me last week, whenever they were doing their final, and they were getting an invalid grading scheme, and they had the grading scheme, they had the correct grading scheme, grading standard selected. They had, most everybody was looking good as far as their grades were concerned. But I had them take a look. I said, do you have any students who do not have a grade? And they said, yes, I have a student who withdrew. And I said, right there's your student that's causing the problem. So I said, enter a 0 for that student. Even though they've withdrawn from your course, they still are in your grade book. They're still causing an issue with your invalid grading scheme. So once she entered a 0 for that student, then she was able to move forward with her midterm final grade submission. So just some things to think about as you're working with the invalid grading schemes. All right, so let's go back to Gradebook and let's take a look at, we're going to stay here in Gradebook for a little while and take a look at some of these things that we have options to do. So I'm going to go back to this view button. You remember all that scrolling that I had to do. We can manage our gradebook and filter out, if you will, and do some arrangement within our gradebook. So I'm going to click on the view button and arrange by. The default order is typically the order that I'm dropping things in. They just happen to stay that way. I can change to alphabetize them by assignment name. I can arrange by due date from oldest to newest, newest to oldest, from points, lowest to highest, highest to lowest, or even from modules. I tend to build my class in modules, so that works well for me. So by changing that to modules, I'm going to see things in module order, and that pretty much gets me in line with what did they do first. That's going to be on the leftmost side of my gradebook, to what they did toward the end of the course. Again, structuring it in modules. So that allows me, again, to filter those columns, or not filter, but arrange those columns. Now that I've done that, let's also take a look at filters. So filters, now I don't want to mislead you, filters can be done at any point. Doesn't matter how you arrange your columns. Filters will allow you to filter out these columns and zero in on certain things, all right? So I have the option to filter by assignment groups. Because I have assignment groups in my course, I now have that option to filter. So I'm going to click on assignment groups. And when I do, it's going to give me this new drop down that I didn't have before. So I click on that and I can filter by assignments and see just those columns that are categorized as an assignment. On the other hand, I can do just exams and filter out just those columns that are categorized as exams. And as you can see, I don't have any. So you may, don't let that trick you there, but I chose exams and I don't have any exams in my gradebook yet. Lab projects, I have one lab project. So that's a way that you can kind of filter out. You're not having to scroll across and take a look at so many things at once. So that's your assignment, you're filtering by your assignment groups. Now I can leave that filter drop down there if I want to. If I uncheck it, it will go away. So it's totally up to you on what you have available within your view. I also have the option to filter by modules. So again, once I check that, I checked modules, I'm going to see a drop down here. So I click on all modules and I can filter out by week 1 online course basics and module, just the first week's module. And that's the only columns that I'll see there. So again, it helps me from having to scroll around and take a look at all the things within my gradebook. Another view option, in my case, I have, if you have sections, if you have multiple sections in your course, for instance, you're teaching 1601 or 1101 or whatever your course is, and you have section 01 and section 02 and maybe section 53, you can actually filter out by sections. Okay, so once again, I'm creating a drop down here so I can filter out my students based on their section. Okay. Let me see here. Actions. I was thinking, I'm going to dig into it. In some cases, you might see the filter, or excuse me, the section number by the student name. Okay, I'm not seeing it right now, so it may be a setting that I need to turn on. But typically I see that by default, so I'll have to check into that one. But I can filter all the sections and look at just those students in section 1. So here is my collection. I have these 4 students in section 1. So I can focus in on those students and do their grading or whatever it is I need to do for that group. I can switch to 02 and see those students who are in section 2. Again, focusing on just those students and getting their grading done or whatever I need to do with them. And of course, I can go back to all sections and bring back all of my students. Okay. The search box will allow me to search for a particular student. So if I need to, in my case, I only have a few students, so it's easy to find them, but let's imagine I have 112. So I can scroll down and look for them, or I can click on the search for and zero in again on that particular student. Okay, so those are some different ways that we can filter and arrange our gradebook. The statuses would allow you to take a look or actually change the statuses. I don't know if you noticed there's coloring based on when or if they submitted an assignment. So if they were late, then it gives it a kind of a blue hint to it. If they're missing, it's pink or kind of a red look. Resubmitted, dropped, and excused. And of course, you can change the colors. You can turn those off. I mean, it's up to you how you see those. But here's an example of a status showing green. And if we think back, green was a resubmitted. So it shows me that Frodo resubmitted that particular assignment. He submitted it the first time and I allowed multiple submissions, so he resubmitted it. So that's kind of a flag to me that, I maybe need to go back and look at that. The other things that you're going to notice as you're looking at student gradebooks are these little indicators. These icons indicate that the student has submitted something and I have not graded it. In Chewbacca's case, I've graded it. There's a point there. But in this student, Frodo and Kylo, they both have submitted. I have not graded. Dash indicates that they have not submitted. So let's see. I'm going to clear this filter so I can see some more options here. So I'm going to go to all modules. And actually, I'm going to turn off some of these filters here. I'm going to uncheck that. Now I have my scroll bar back at the bottom. So now that my gradebook is much larger, taking up more real estate, I need that scroll bar. But I was going to scroll around and let you see. There again, there's another, that's a discussion forum that these students have submitted something and I have not graded. Okay, so you will see those little icons throughout your gradebook as students submit things that you need to grade. Okay. Let's talk about some other options here. We talked about these eyeballs, the eyeballs showing up. If I click on the eyeball in the total, it'll give me a little screen tip to remind me that this grade differs from the student's view of the grade because some assignment grades are not yet posted. Okay. So when I have, I'm going to slide over here to this quiz syllabus. That one is hidden, right? A lot of times if you're grading something, I don't know about your students, but if I have not hidden something and I'm working on, let's imagine I'm grading this discussion forum. And as I'm grading, those points are populating, okay? And then maybe I have to go to a class or I have a meeting or the phone rings or I have an appointment with a student, whatever the case is, I'm in the middle of grading and I don't have everyone's done. Susie gets all bent out of shape because Johnny has a score and she doesn't. All right. We've all been there. They contact us. Johnny got a score. Why don't I? So what I'll do many times is I'll click on this kebab, and here's a lot of different options. And we're going to get to some of these as we go through this, but I'm going to go down to this grade posting policy, and we can hide things. I can manually change that. So not what I wanted to do. Let me go back to that. Let me go back to automatically. Let's look at this one here. This post grades and all grades hidden. So right now, all grades are hidden. So if you have that option, this one was not a good example to show that. But in this case, we see that we have all grades are hidden. So students aren't seeing that. As I'm working on grading that quiz, students aren't seeing it. I still have to go in and grade Hans. Actually, Hans hadn't submitted anything yet. But if he did, I would have that little indicator that I need to grade that. So once I have posted those grades, I'll click post. Then I'm gonna, you'll see this little slide come up and it's gonna show me that, currently 5 are hidden. I can choose to post and it will post for everyone, or it will post just for those who have received a grade or submission comment. Typically, if I'm ready to post, I post to everyone, but it's totally up to you. You have those options. And then you also could post for specific sections. So that's what's cool. If you graded section 01, you can post just to that section and not to section 02. So that's kind of a cool feature there. On the other hand, if you want to post to everyone, I'll just click everyone and click post, and it will post to all of my students, regardless of what section they're in. The eyeball goes away. And now my eyeball has changed on my total. The eyeball has gone away, but now I have this exclamation point. The exclamation point shows me that the score does not include exams because it has no points possible. Remember, I had that exam category, but no exams. So it's reminding me, hey, you have weighted grades. You have an exam that's worth so much of your final grade, and you don't have any exam points there. So that's just kind of a reminder to me that I need to take care of that, or that's going to, affect how things look as I add that exam. Okay. Let's kind of hit on that hiding and posting and some of your policies that you can put in place with your gradebook. All the way to the right, you'll see this gear. That's going to take you into your gradebook settings and some late policy settings. This is kind of cool. Late policies, you can have those set to where it automatically applies a grade for a missing submission. So if I check that and I have the grade percentage set as 0, once that, think back, I'm going to have you think back to the assignments. I have an assignment due date. And that due date, let's say that assignment due date is November 17th at 11:59. So they have to submit it before midnight tonight. If they do not submit, then it will tomorrow, once it hits November 18th, it will apply a 0 automatically for their grade for that particular assignment. So just some things to keep in mind there, that you can have it automatically populate those zeros for you if you turn on this late policy, automatically apply grade option. Okay. Another option that you have here is to automatically apply a deduction to late submissions. So here you can have it submit, or excuse me, deduct a certain percentage. Maybe you want it to deduct 5% per day per hour. So you kind of have to do, for me, I had to do some, how much do I really want to hit them? You want to be careful with that percentage. If you're thinking, typically you do 20% off for late deductions or late submissions, you want to take a look at here because Canvas is set to per day or per hour. So you kind of have to, how long am I going to allow them to actually submit something late? And if they do, how hard of a hit am I going to give to them? So you kind of have to do some calculating there. For me, 3% worked out to what I usually do. I do 3% per day. So, and I usually, typically in my course, I give them a week to submit something. So of course, the longer that takes them, the harder hit it is. But just again, some things that you might check out with your within your gradebook and late submissions. You can, if you do this late submission and per day, you can indicate the lowest possible grade that they would get. So maybe you don't want their lowest possible. If that keeps hitting them with that 3%, you don't want them to get below 50%. You can indicate that. That's what that is about. So those are the late policies. And then there's grade posting policies. And this by default automatically posts grades. As soon as you are entering grades, it's automatically posting. And that's what I hit on a while ago and I didn't intend to hit on that. That's what this is referring to. You automatically posting those grades. Again, as you enter grades, they're automatically being posted to your students, or you can manually, where grades are hidden by default, any grades that you already may have posted before selecting this option will remain visible. So just be sure to read the little writing here. But again, you can control how your grades are being shown to your students. Okay. Let's see. One of the things too, I'm going to go to this little kebab here, and then we'll take a quick look at SpeedGrader. One of the things here, SpeedGrader, we're going to head there next, but one of the things that I wanted to point out that I think this is a really cool feature of Canvas is Message Students Who. Message Students Who will allow you to, let me click on it, send a quick message to those students who haven't submitted yet. So if I drag this over and you can kind of see dimmed in the background, most of the students have submitted to this discussion forum, except for Anakin and Hans. So if I want to send them a quick message, maybe to remind them, hey guys, you need to be taking a look at this. This will allow me to send a quick message to those students who haven't submitted yet. It goes to those students individually. So Anakin is not going to see that Han Solo got the message as well. So it sends them out individually, private message, if you will. And that goes to their Canvas inbox. The other option is I can send a message to those that haven't been graded. Maybe I need to just send a message to those students to say, hello students, I haven't finished grading this, just letting you know that I'm working on that and we'll get that as soon as possible. I can send a message to those who have scored less than a particular point. Okay, in this case, I don't have anybody graded, but I can say, let me jump to this one right here. Message students who scored less than, and I can say scored less than 5. And I'm going to see that one student scored less than 5, and I can send a message to them, reminding them to review a certain section of the chapter or whatever it is I need to. Scored more than, and I can score more than 5. I can change that number and I can send, hey guys, great job. You scored greater than whatever. And it's just a way to send a message to students who, whatever your criteria is. This haven't submitted yet. I've done that a lot, just again, to remind students to complete something. Some of you may think, well, they're college students, they don't need this reminder, but then again, sometimes it helps them, especially with this remote learning we're in, it's helped them to remember to do some things or to complete some projects. So lots of different options there. All right, quick tour of SpeedGrader. All right, so you can enter your scores right here in Gradebook. So you could just, as we saw earlier, I can go down and I can enter scores for the Gradebook, just clicking on it and putting in a score. I can press the score, press enter, there it is, all right? But SpeedGrader allows us to take a look at that student's submissions. So I'm going to click on the kebab. Again, I can do some sorting here if I need to within that particular column, but I'm going to go to SpeedGrader. And this is SpeedGrader. I happen to click on a discussion post column, so this is what it's going to look like. Across the top, I'm going to see different buttons. This icon is going to take me back to Gradebook. This icon will allow me to hide grades. So there's that same hide grades, post grade things that we can do from the Gradebook. We can also do here. The settings, I have options here. I'm going to jump here before I make some changes. I'm going to go across and come back to that. We'll see across the top the assignment title. I can click on that to go look at the details of the assignment. I can see how many I've graded, the average thus far. Here's my student. I'm currently looking at Chewbacca's post. If I click on this drop down, I'll see a list of all the students. So the check mark here, that one has been graded. This one has been submitted, but I haven't graded it. These have not submitted anything. All right. So I can change the order of this. All right. And let me go, just for grins, let me go to another option. I'm going to go back to grades. This one was a discussion forum. Let me go to another one that might be a submission or a quiz. All right. In this case, I'm going to go to SpeedGrader, and this one was actually a submission that students did. Maybe I had them submit a report. Okay. In this case, this person submitted a video. All right. So that's what it would look like in the video. But again, this drop down is going to show me a list of students who have submitted or have not submitted, who I've graded, who I've not. I'm going to go back to this option. All right. When I am grading, if I have 112 students, I don't want to click on the next student that I've already graded. All right. I want to jump. I want to be able to just continue to grade those students that need to be addressed. So I'm going to change the sort order of those students. I'm going to click on settings. I'm going to go to options, and the SpeedGrader options sort student list. By default, it's going to be by student name. I'm going to change that to by submission status. Now I have the option to also sort by the date they submitted the assignment. So sometimes that's helpful too. I tend to hang out by the submission status, and I'll click Save Settings, and it will reload my SpeedGrader. And I'm going to find now that all these at the top that I've graded, and then all the ones I have not graded are down here, or would be down at the bottom. In this particular case, I've graded all of, or excuse me, I'm sorry. These are the ones I have not graded. My bad. The yellow dot's the ones I have not graded. And so those are all at the top. These are the two that have not submitted anything, and oh, Chewbacca down here has submitted and I've graded it already. So it's just changing those. So again, SpeedGrader allows you to take a look at the actual submission of the student, whether it's a quiz, a discussion forum, a document that they've submitted, uploaded for you. You can use the buttons here at the top to annotate. So I can actually make some comments and annotate right here within the preview, and the student will see that as well once you've posted it. You have a highlighter, you have a text box that you can do free text annotation, you can strike through, you have your pencil here that you can do some things. You could also create a box and do some commenting that way. You have the option to download. So if you actually need to download the document itself, you have the option on the toolbar to the left, or from the pane over here to the right where all the submission details are. You have that. Here's your grade. So you can enter the grade for the student. If there's a rubric attached to that assignment, if you click on view rubric, that will expand so that you can actually score based on what you find in the rubric, and do some, you can add comments and different things. Let me make this wider so you can see more of that. So there's my rubric, and I can make some comments here at the bottom. Once I click save, it will actually take the ratings that I've indicated in the rubric and drop them into the grade, right? So there again, it depends on if you have a rubric attached or not. Rubrics is a whole nother session, and rubrics are really cool in Canvas. So there's my shout out to rubrics. So at some point, we may need to take a look at rubrics, do a shout out to me if that's something you'd like to take a look at. I can add comments to that student, either with media, or I can attach something, or I can actually just do comments right here in the comment box and submit those. One of the things I'm going to go back to, let's go back to grades so we can see now that particular student's grades is going to have populated there. So we'll see that there's Kylo's score, and I'll still see that there are some that I need to grade. One of the other things, for those of you who do a lot of heavy essays and you need to do some grading and do some annotations there, you do have an option in Gradebook that you can download the submissions. All right, and I put a little bit of this in Serve 1500 on the how-tos and what have you, but I'll do a quick explanation here. You can download all of the submissions, actually open each of them in your word processing program, annotate there, and then re-upload all of those annotations that you've done within Word, and it will attach automatically to those students' grades, and they will see those in their gradebook. So some really cool stuff here with Canvas Gradebook. And I run us down to the minute where like 11:02, 12:02 if you're looking at my laptop. But anyway, it's actually 11:02. So I need to sign off. Thank you guys for joining me in this session. If you have questions that I didn't answer, please hang out a little longer. I'll hang on here to the call if you have questions, or if you need to bug out and head on to another meeting or something, please let me know. Email me, send me a message, give me a call, and I'll help you out. Again, thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you, Sherry, very much.
You're
Great
welcome.
presentation. Very, very interesting.
Thank
I learned
you.
something new.
Good, good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. All right. See you guys. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.